Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of Spirit Spotlight here at We'll Drink for Travel TV. I am here with the lovely gentleman from Greenwood Whiskey. Would you guys introduce yourselves for me?
Sure. So my name is Shay Bailey. I'm the CFO and co-founder of Greenwood.
I'm James Roach. I'm 1/4 of Team Greenwood. I'm the CEO and the guy that's tackling the social media aspect of Greenwood.
I'm Sheldon Johns Harris. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer for Greenwood Whiskey, as well as the in-house attorney, as KG always calls me. Quaylen Gordon is missing. That's the CEO, Greenwood Whiskey. That's who I refer to as KG.
Nice. So tell me how you guys know each other. What's the relationship here?
Myself and James, we're roommates from college. Shay and James went to high school together, so they're friends from high school. And Shay and KG met through a work friend many moons ago, like about 15 years or so. So we've been kind of hanging out like a lot since then.
So tell me about Greenwood Whiskey and how the idea came about and what it means and why you named it Greenwood.
So the idea came about, as I just said, we hung out a lot. And, that entails a little bit of drinking and a lot of conversations about a myriad of different things. Some of those conversations might be, who's the best quarterback in the league. Some might be, what's going on in baseball today. But one of the recurring conversations we had was, what is it that we can do collectively to uplift ourselves and our families? For college educated men, we're intelligent, we have professions, we have our own sets of skills, and they're not the same. So there had to be something that we could do to put all our skills together to, work together and achieve a level of success. One idea was, buy like a FedEx route. That's one thing we thought about. We thought about drop shipping. We thought about a couple of different things. And then
Thought about that.
Yeah. And the list is long. It's not something that was just, a one day, okay, let's do this. Like, we were talking about that for a while. We were thinking about it for a while. And then one day, I always give credit to KG. We hang out in my basement, and he kind of just burst in the basement and was like, I got it. And when he meant I got it, he meant I had the answer to the question that we've been asking ourselves for quite some time. So that's how we kind of came up with the idea. So then we started brainstorming and thought about, how we'd want to brand it, what we would, what goals we'd want to achieve or whatever. And we thought about Black Wall Street. We know the story of Black Wall Street. They were one of the most successful Black communities of their time. And we looked at that as inspiration. So we kind of wanted to emulate that. And we kind of wanted to kind of bring that to our community as well and try to inspire our community along the same lines. So Black Wall Street existed in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So that's where the name Greenwood came from.
And just for people who may not be familiar, can you share a little bit more about what Tulsa, Oklahoma looks like?
So like I said, when it was time for us to, we wanted to name our brand, like I said, Sheldon spoke on, we wanted it to be meaningful, impactful, something that spoke to who we are, who we want to be, who we used to be. And like I said, I just remember hearing about Black Wall Street. And honestly, I remember hearing it from hearing the Game talk about it, the rapper Game. And then I was like, you know what, Black Wall Street. So let me do the research. And basically it was almost like 10 minutes of research, really, just to look and say, you know what, Greenwood, that's it. And then even stumbling on the Gap Band and Charlie Wilson, and Gap Band stands for, the GAP stands for Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. 3 streets that intersect with each other in that in the Tulsa district. So just seeing that, I was like, yeah, it was like, that's it. And and to speak to back then, it was over 600 businesses, Black owned, doctors, hotels, lawyers, I call it supermarket. I'm from New York, so supermarket. It was a self-sustaining community where the Black dollar stayed. I remember reading for almost 3 years. It was something like that, where now, if you read a story, it may say the Black dollar stays in our community for 6 hours. Back then, it was saying it for almost 3 years. So it was it just spoke to, I think, who we are. Like I said, we're educated, young, we're still young black men. It was perfect for us. It was a perfect name for what we're trying to build.
Tell me, like, what steps you took to get from an idea to a bottle to fruition and in the stores and on shelves and online.
So once we had the idea and once we actually digested it and realized that it was something that we actually could do, we started talking about exactly what kind of liquor we would put out, right? So, I mean, of course, there was a lot of brainstorming sessions that went into it before we actually physically took some actions. But, we settled on whiskey because, we do enjoy cigars, some of us more than others, but, we enjoy cigars. And so we thought that whiskey fit in well with cigars. So that's why we settled on whiskey. Then we started kind of tasting different whiskeys to try to figure out the palates and what we liked and what we didn't like and which direction we wanted to go. And then we started visiting distilleries.
So did you guys, since there are 4 of you and I have my Greenwood here, how did you guys decide on what the flavor profile would be? Was there arguments or how did you guys sort of figure out what flavor profile you were going with?
More arguments than you can imagine.
Yeah, I'll say our palates vary. I'll admit, I'm more on the sweet side of stuff. I don't like it tasting like kerosene, as my term. So, and then my esteemed partner, Mr. Johns Harris, he could drink just about anything. So,
we wanted to find a happy medium, right? So we wanted something that we can sit down and drink straight, but we also wanted to be inclusive of the female consumer, right? Which, by the way, is the #1 growing whiskey consumer out there. So we wanted to do something that wasn't too sweet, right? Where the traditional whiskey drinkers wouldn't have a problem with. But then we also wanted to make it smooth enough to where we weren't turning off what we like to call newer whiskey drinkers. So it was, a lot of samples, a lot of back and forth. You brought it up, a lot of arguments, but eventually we settled on the flavor profile that you have in front of you now.
Yeah, and I must say, I mean, I don't consider myself a novice whiskey drinker, but I'm not an expert either. I sort of consider myself a middle of the road, and I didn't even bother to mix it because I wanted to taste what the actual whiskey tasted like, and I can drink it on the rocks easily. So kudos to you guys for the recipe.
Good, appreciate that.
Yeah,
thank you.
So what did your family and your friends say when you told them you were starting your own liquor brand? I feel like it's such not an everyday occurrence. So what did they have to say?
So my wife, right, and I wish I could find her Facebook post and show it to you. But when we finally put bottles on the shelves, my wife made a Facebook post essentially saying that for 4 years, myself and my 3 friends have been in the basement drinking and loud talking and calling it business meetings. And apparently there was actually some sort of business meeting going on because there's a product on the shelf. So and up to that point, she was like, yeah, whatever, we'll see. And then it hit the shelf and she's like, oh, wow. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, she's very supportive, but when it came out, what I've noticed actually along the way is that, every step of the way, the closer you get to actually putting something out, the more people took you seriously, right? So up front, when, I would speak to people and I might go to a liquor store and, the people that I know in there, I'd bring it up to them. They're like, yeah, cool. If you need something, give me a call. And Shay and James can attest to it. I would call and nobody would answer me, right? And then I'd see them again and I'd say, hey, taste this for me. And they're like, oh, now they're starting to answer me because they're kind of believing you guys might actually do something. And then when we show up with a bottle and be like, yo, we're looking for a distributor right now, they're like, oh, wow, I know a guy. Maybe you should call this guy. And, it's the responses have been across the board.
that was actually going to be my next question. Like, did you find that most of the people in your lives were supportive of your idea, at least at this point? Because I feel like, when you, as I mentioned, like you start out and people are like, okay, all right, God bless, but then as you start to really put, pen to paper and get your product on the shelves, it's like, oh, I don't know. I just feel like Black people, we tend to sort of do that. Like, we're like, okay, all right, girl, good luck. And then people, you really have to take yourself seriously. So, I mean, what did you guys have to like?
Well, I think that goes back to something James said earlier, right? Like the image we have in front of us, like the things that, are plenty in our communities, right, are like, like the t-shirts, the barbershops, the hair salons, and that kind of stuff. So when you bring something outside of the box, just like it took a little while for us to digest the idea of us doing it, it's going to take a little while for them to digest the idea of us doing it, right? And then as they see us moving forward, then that kind of helps with the process. So it's never been that they weren't supportive. It's just like, really? Okay. Right. And when they see us doing it, it's like, oh, what you want? And I mean, there's a lot of people that, as soon as they were able to buy something, they were like, where can I get it? I don't want a free bottle. I'm going to buy it from you. Like, I want to give you that support,
I think as, to stay with the family and friends and what their support was, I think as they saw us fighting through a lot of these obstacles, their confidence started to grow with ours, right? So it's, okay, oh, you guys got your registration here. You guys got your liquor license here. So, oh, you guys got a distributor. So as we start taking those steps, it's almost like a snowball that starts, building momentum downhill. And I think, to be quite frank, I think all of the conversations that we have amongst each other, which are a lot, we still have our, the people that are in our household that we sort of lean on too, so it's the support has been real and it's been much appreciated.
Have you found that, since the killing of George Floyd last summer, that there has been sort of like a focus on Black-owned spirits, and how do you feel about that?
So when we hit shelves in October in Tulsa and November in Atlanta, right? So these are the first two times that we were out on market. So we can't really say that we've seen a difference as far as our business is concerned. But when that happened, we were, we've got some people in the business that we were consulting and bouncing ideas off and trying to figure out which direction we should go. And what they told us was, right now with the climate of the country, like, basically go all the way Black and lean in, right? Because that is what, I guess, for a better way to put it, that's what's marketable right now, right? So there are a lot of people that appeals to because of that climate. So, I mean, we'll see how long it will last, or if it's still around or whatever. But it gave us the opportunity to just, be ourselves. Like we honestly did think about, like, we were keeping the name, but we thought about ways that we could market it differently, just so that we could appeal to everybody, so to speak. But the advice we got was just go ahead and be you.
The thing is, we have a good product, so it's not like we selling something, quote unquote, we selling garbage out there. We have a great product, so we can pivot if need be. But truthfully, I would say, do we have to pivot, even if we're not getting the love, from the outside community? We're speaking to our people, but if there's an outside community, I think they would enjoy it just because it's a great product.
It is, and that's actually something that I've really found to be an interesting conversation as I've talked to Black spirit owners. It's like, people want to support Black-owned businesses, that's the time we're in, but also these are actually really good products. Like, despite even, I don't want to say despite, but, even knowing who owns them, like, they're actually just good products that people should support. And that's the narrative that I wish, was out there. Like, this is it's good whiskey. Like, it's good whiskey, and it just happens to be Black owned.